She is the lead singer of a brand new called Plush that you need to know about. Their lead single, the debut, Hate, is out now across all formats, and you can hear it right here on Rock 96.7. She is Moriah Formica, and this is the Styles Cast. And thank you so much for being here with us today. I appreciate you.
And thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Coming up on April 25th, you have your first quote unquote public performance for the band. You guys excited about that?
Oh, yeah, we're ecstatic. We're super excited because, like you just said, like nobody's seen us play before. So.
Right. And obviously the pandemic's created a completely different world for everybody for the band. And you guys, the group has really come together within the last year. So talk me through just how the process has been for the band, because I'm sure rehearsing and even writing has been a completely different world for you.
Yeah, it was definitely very like weird to get used to. But, I mean, the writing process it was a little frustrating at first because obviously it's ideal to be in person, especially when you're writing a song, because I went through everything. I tried to write over Zoom, and then the audio quality sucks because it keeps cutting out, and I'm like, oh damn, well I can't even hear what you're playing. So Zoom, all the other things, FaceTime. So but it's frustrating, but eventually we got the hang of it, and there's a lot of voice memos, texting back and forth, and sending videos. What do you think of this melody? What do you think of that? So, we got the hang of it, but it was a little frustrating at first. As far as practices, that's another thing that's frustrating because, we got to make sure everybody's tested and no one has COVID, obviously, or anything like that. So, but I mean, Bella is from our lead guitar player, Bella. She's from Maine anyway, so I guess it would, even if there wasn't a pandemic going on, it'd be a little difficult to figure out a time that works for all of us since we're a little bit further apart from each other. But yeah, it's definitely been something to adjust to. So just like for everyone.
No doubt. Now, where is the show going to emanate from for this particular performance on the 25th?
Yeah, this is going to be, what do you mean? Like, where is it going to be being like broadcast, or do you mean like where are we playing?
Where are you playing from, and where's it broadcasting from?
Okay. We are going to be playing in at Brooke's house actually, but it's like our little band space.
Okay.
It's really cool actually. It's not even like it's really cool. It's our little band space, which is, I love it. It's just the vibes are there, and we're going to be using the streaming service that we're using is called Cover Band TV. It's a local company I've done a few shows acoustically by myself with them, and the head guy there, Pete, he's just awesome. So they top notch quality video and audio as well. So super, super excited.
Cool. And there'll be a Q&A afterwards for the fans. As far as performing on a live stream, there's going to be no audience. So is that going to be awkward for you, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's definitely very weird. It definitely makes you, it's a different way of performing. Like you have to get all the strength and the adrenaline. You have to pull it from elsewhere. You have to pull it from like either each other or the crew that's there or wherever it is, within you. You just got to pull it out from somewhere because you can't feed off of the crowd, I mean, so or I know what helps me a lot is just knowing that there is a crowd, but they're just on the other side of a screen, so that actually does help me a lot.
I know you did a recent interview with one of my buddies, Cooper at Welcome to Cooper.
Oh yeah, he's so much fun.
Shout out to him. You talked about being nervous in that interview. Do you still get nervous though, even to this day, just in general performing?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm a very nervous person. I am super, it's real. It was funny because I was saying to him, like, it's so funny because with what I do, you expect me to be like this like outgoing, like whatever. And I can be outgoing, but I'm like a huge introvert. I'm very introverted. I'm very, I don't say like much. Like I'm pretty. So it's ironic with what I do, definitely. And I definitely do get very, very nervous before every show, whether it's, you know, whether it's a live stream behind a screen or, you know, playing some bar or playing some huge stage. Like it always get very nervous.
Oh, I can totally understand that. I joke all the time. I have to do like warm-ups and do this a little bit
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
before I go bring a band on stage. You got to do a whole set. I'm just introducing you on stage. I'm like, oh, got to do a little warm-up. Like,
right. No, oh my gosh, I find myself literally before almost every single show doing like jumping jacks or something to get the nervous, a little bit of the nervous energy out. It's very helpful actually. Or like breathing exercises have really helped me too. I do those before I go on stage.
Very cool. Did you do that a lot during your time on The Voice as well?
Oh yeah, we did a lot of breathing exercise. There was this one breathing exercise called Dragon's Breath, and it doesn't sound very great, but it is very great. It's I forgot what it was. I think it's like you plug one nostril and then you inhale and then you hold it for like 30 seconds, and then when you're ready to exhale, you plug the other nostril and then exhale out the one that was just plugged. And it's actually super, super helpful. It really helps me like to ground myself and come back down to earth and realize, hey, everything's okay. Just focus on your breath. Um, so we did a lot of that on The Voice, and I did do a lot of like little jumping jacks or just things to help me get some of the nerves out and stuff like that, you know, because we did a whole bunch of weird stuff. I think I might have been talking about this with Cooper as well, but we did like we would do olive oil shots, some of the other contestants. I came backstage one day and I was like, what the heck are you guys doing? And I'm like, you guys are, because they were like doing shots. I'm like, yeah, you guys are dumb. Like, we have to go perform. They're like, no. They're like, no, it's olive oil. I'm like, oh, that's disgusting. But it really, really does wonders. Like, I felt like my voice could go anywhere I wanted it to. It's just the strangest things before you go on stage that nobody would ever think.
No doubt. And I'm not going to concentrate too much on the time of you on The Voice, but I just want to ask, what would be the catalyst of a 16-year-old auditioning for that show? I mean, that's for somebody who you know, like you said, you're an introvert, really. Yeah. What would make you want to go and be like, hey, you know what? I want to be on national TV.
It's funny because when I didn't know that they have like talent scouts, they call them, and they kind of just stalk people online and then they like reach out, you know, and say, hey, I'm a talent scout with so and so, and we want to offer you an audition or something. And that's what happened with me. And when my dad told me that, I was like, because my dad ran my social media at the time, and I was like, Dad, that's not funny. Like, he's like, no, I'm not kidding. Seriously, they offered you a private audition. And I'm like, holy crap. And at first I was like, no, those shows hate rock and roll. There's no way, blah, blah. And then I was really faced with, you know, with being nervous, and I didn't know how I would handle it, being so young and so nervous all the time, being on national TV. And then, you know, I really thought about it for a long time, and I was like, how stupid would I be if I just said no to this huge opportunity? Because I was only 16. It's so many more years, you know, to keep doing this. And I just figured it can't hurt. You know, the exposure can't hurt, honestly. And so I figured it would be a great thing for me, you know, with a little help from my parents explaining, you know, hey, you know, this is an opportunity. We're just saying you don't have to do it, but think about it. You know, you're only 16. You don't want to be 26 10 years later and then regretting it. And so I just decided to go along with it. And it ended up being one of the best experiences of my life.
And the exposure, let alone in itself, definitely helped you out.
Gosh.
That's how I honestly. how I was introduced to you. My wife and I love watching that show. One, finding somebody doing rock on the show was fantastic. Two, you were amazing. And three, for me personally, I actually worked and lived in Albany, New York. So it was like, oh, there's
wow.
here.
Awesome. Yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, the exposure is it really was it really helped set a foundation for my career. You know, like I got so many amazing opportunities after being on the show. Like we got to play 2 shows opening for Joan Jett and Hailstorm. And that was just a dream in and of itself. And so yeah, it's just, and I met, on top of that, I met people that are, I mean, I met my best friend on the show. Seriously. So you just form amazing bonds. You gain new skills. You learn new things about yourself. Um, and yeah, it honestly, it's priceless, the experience.
No doubt. You mentioned Hailstorm. Lizzie Hale shared the post of you kind of recruiting the band. You are a solo artist, even going into The Voice. So what made you want to go, you know what? I want to put a band together and actually be a group.
Yeah, I didn't, you know, growing up, everybody that I looked up to, every single artist, and I'm not kidding when I say every single one, they were all bands. Every single one was a band. My eventual goal, and from the time I was like 6, when I looked down the road and saw myself, I always saw myself being the front woman of a band. That's just, or the guitar player. You know, I just always saw myself being in a band and nothing else. But for a while, I did the solo thing, and that was because I was listening to a lot of people in the industry and people that would give advice, and they're like, you know, you should do a solo thing. It's more current with what sells today, and you should do this and blah blah blah. And so I did, you know, um, and it was great. I had a lot of great experiences doing the solo thing. I had a backing band, and we were very close. You know, we had a lot of spiritual experiences together, a lot of great fun times. Because I know it sounds funny, but it's like doing those things when you're a kid, you know, together, and being able to play shows with people like Joan Jett and play festivals and play, you know, things like NAMM, like that. There is a spiritual element to it. You know, you guys become so close, and it's just, you hear so many bands talk about it, and it's just, it was hard for us to wrap our heads around it until we experienced it.
Right.
And it was amazing doing the solo thing, but you know, we all get older, and you start to realize maybe you're not exactly 100% happy with what you're doing, and you know, you start to get a mind of your own, and you start to realize what you want. And I just wasn't 100% happy with what I was doing, and neither was anybody else, I don't think. And then the pandemic hit, and it was just like perfect timing. So, you know, then the pandemic hit, and I was like on social media, because what else are you going to do when all that stuff was
Yeah.
happening? I was just like home all day, and I'm like, well, shoot, like, what am I supposed to do? So I came across Brooke Colucci, aka Rock Angel, on Instagram, and I was like, there's no way this girl is 16. Like, that's just stupid how good she plays. And then I found out that she didn't live too far away from where I was, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to at least just jam. Like, we have to just jam at least. And we ended up getting in contact with each other through our dads, through a mutual venue that we played together in Poughkeepsie. And we ended up jamming, and it was just chemistry. I mean, the chemistry was instant. We just felt like we had something special together, and we knew that we wanted to be in a band. So that's how that came about. But as far as it was not really something that just popped in my head like, oh, I want to be a part of a band. It was something that I always saw myself doing from the time I was little. It just, I listened to, I was listening to what other people were saying was best for my career.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So that's
And
really how it came to be.
Speaking of those people giving you the advice, Lizzie Hale was always very vocal about people telling her, mentioning the advice of going, oh, you should change your sound and all this. Did you have people telling you, oh, don't be rock, do something else?
Oh yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh. And it's upsetting, when you're rock, when you are just, because rock and roll is not, it's not just a genre. It's for me, for me personally, it's like it's who I am. Like it's just a part of me, and I always say, and it's funny because I literally heard Lizzie Hale say this in a very recent interview, and I never, I love Lizzie Hale, she's a huge influence, but I never heard her say this, but I would always say it was almost like rock and roll chose me. I didn't choose it, because there was never one moment. And then when I heard her say that, I'm like, hey, like, yeah, that's how it is, because there was never one moment when I was like, I want to be a rock star. Like it just happened. Like I just loved it. It was just a part of me, and so it's kind of, it's painful whenever you hear people say things like, and then they try to use your talent as a way to justify what they're saying. Like a very popular one that I would get from a lot of industry people, or even just like some Joe Schmo on Facebook, like, oh, your voice is so amazing and versatile. Why are you wasting it on rock when you could be a huge pop star? I'm like, I don't care. I don't want that. I don't, it's not, fame and being huge is not what I am in it for. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? So, yes, I've had a lot of people, and shortly after The Voice, when I got eliminated, I was feeling a little discouraged, and you're 16, 17, and everything seems like a much bigger deal than it actually is, and
Right.
and you're like, well, crap, I feel discouraged, and is this rock thing really going to work out? And so I started writing pop songs and more mainstream stuff, and I was all set to release those songs, and then last minute I really really had like a spiritual moment where I was like, you know what, no, this is not who I am. I'm not happy. This is fake, and everybody's gonna know it's fake, because people know when things are fake, and they don't like it. They run far from it, and I was not happy, and so I was like, you know what? Sorry, I know I told all of you guys that I was going to release this, but I can't do it. I can't do it. It'd be a disservice to myself, and it'd be a disservice to you, because it's not genuine. Um, and so, yeah, very long answer to a short question. But yes, I've had a lot of people try and be like, hey, you're wasting your talent doing rock, because it's such a, it's not number one genre in America. And the truth is, I don't care. That's not what it's about.
No, but I appreciate that answer, because it's a great, truthful, very honest answer to what a lot of people get in terms of their career and the advice. And you have signed with Pavement, which, shout out to Tim King and the whole crew over there. I love Tim, known him for many years. What made you and kind of pointed you in the direction to sign with Pavement to help lead your career moving forward? And this is even before Plush was a band.
Right. Sorry, gotta get the coffee. You know, it was right after Brooke and I had put out the Barracuda cover, and it actually wasn't even really, Tim had reached out, and he just wanted to like give me kudos at first, like, just like, hey, this popped up on my recommended, and I just think it's amazing, and you guys are awesome, you guys are well on your way, whatever. And then it snowballed into this conversation, and he told me about Pavement, and there were through many conversations, and just finding out the things that we had in common, and how our visions just really kind of lined up. It was just, I'm a very spiritual person, like a very spiritual person, and it was just something about Tim and Pavement that I just felt like was perfect for me. And they really, I really, really loved how much they believed in me. Because they really were willing, and they just completely were like, no, we're gonna go all in for you. We completely believe in you, and we're gonna ride this wave with you, and we're gonna help you make this happen. And there were a couple other management companies that were reaching out at that point too, but I just didn't feel that same passion with them. I didn't feel like they really had like it wasn't like I didn't feel like they didn't care, but I just
they didn't have your best interest involved.
Right. Tim and Mark, they just made it clear, and they've not only that, but now that I'm signed with them, they have proven time and time again they want me and now with the band, they want everybody to be happy. They want everybody to they want to make sure that everybody's happy with what's being done, what's being put out, how we're being portrayed, like whatever. And that is so important because I've talked to so many other artists who just unfortunately they didn't have the same situation, and they weren't blessed in that regard to have managers that just wanted them to be happy and make sure that they got everything that they deserved, and they ended up being robbed of stuff, and managers that take advantage, really. And it's all too common. And so it really was just, as Tim would say, the stars aligned perfectly. And it's true, it's really, really true.
And your family, your parents have helped you along the way. They've been with you the whole time. Back when you were really getting involved in playing music, what was their first thoughts to you about you when you said, I want to chase this, I want to make this a dream, make this a career, basically? Because some parents would be like, okay, it's just a kid dream, one in a million shots. We'll massively do it with you.
Oh my gosh, my parents from day one, I mean, they always like it actually makes me kind of like emotional, honestly, because sorry because I know that is so it's not like a traditional realistic thing, but from the time I said I want a guitar at 5 years old, because they saw how much I loved watching the bands play. They saw how much I loved Joe Perry. They saw how much, and they went out and they were like, okay, let's get you a guitar. We're going to buy a Guitar Hero. We're going to do this, that. And, let's get you guitar lessons. And they just were completely on board. It was almost like they were as passionate about it as I was.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is really best case scenario. And I am so grateful because I've met a lot of other people where their parents didn't approve of it, and it's just so important because there's always going to be people. I had teachers, guidance counselors, even some people in my family saying, yeah, that's not realistic. That's like you said, that's a kid dream. That's blah, blah, blah. But as long as my parents were like, no, this is going to happen and we're going to help you make it happen, I didn't care what anybody else said, So my parents, I actually wouldn't be where I am without my parents. So
that's
super,
awesome.
super grateful.
And I'm glad to see they're still supporting you to this day. You're out there with the band Plush, your current single, the debut single, Hate. I got to tell you, I love it hearing it just here in my studio on the speakers. But about, I want to say 2 weeks ago, I actually heard it on my station. I'm driving around town. That song cranks so well hearing it on the FM. Have you had a chance to actually hear it on the radio itself yet?
I have. And it was so weird. Like I just got in the car one day and I started it up and I was going to get like freaking, I don't know, like M&Ms or something. That's why I leave my house, guys. I go to get snacks, and that's it. No, I'm just kidding. but I got into the car, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. And all of a sudden, I hear the song start on Octane, and I'm like, holy crap. And yeah, I did, you know, not to toot my own horn, I'm not saying anything. Well, it's really like kind of a more of a kudos to Johnny K, the producer. But yeah, you're right. It completely, I'm really, really happy with how it sounds on the radio. Seriously.
And Johnny K is an amazing producer. I love all of his work. Anytime I see his name on something, I'm like, all right, I got to give it a listen.
Right.
He's done great stuff. What was it like working with him?
It was amazing. I love Johnny K, and this is another thing where it was like our visions just completely lined up. You know, it was, and again, I've heard a lot of stories from other people and other artists where they're like, you go in with your songs and the producer's like, okay, well, we're going to do this. And it's okay if you don't like it, but this is what we're doing, you know, and that sucks. Like nobody wants that. And so when working with Johnny, it was perfect. You know, he really, really has the perfect vision for everything. And I completely wholeheartedly trusted him. And he really, really just helped bring out the best potential in the songs, which is like a dream producer, obviously. And he's so much fun to work with too, like recording and stuff. He just is so creative and thinks outside the box. And, you know, we used this, like, I'm thinking, you know, when he's like, oh yeah, I have all my equipment. I brought a lot of amps and stuff. I'm thinking, oh, awesome. You know, Marshall, EVH, whatever. He's like, yeah, I want to plug you into this like Marshall that's like hot rodded by my friend. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay. The thing has like the most unique, cool freaking sound ever. It's like, oh, it's almost like vintage mixed with it's hard to explain. You know, it's like the guitars on that song are, I don't want to say like muddy or dirty because they're not, but it's like not a typical modern distortion that you hear. And I just love the sound that came out of that amp. So I love the way he works. And we had like for a couple other songs we were recording, he had like the Rhodes, you know, I was playing the Rhodes and he's like, okay, let's plug it into the wah. He just brought all these pedals and it was just super old school and I loved it. And so his vision just really, really aligned with ours, and it was just awesome to work with him. And he also really pushed me vocally too, because I'm really a huge perfectionist, and unfortunately that allows me to get caught up sometimes, or a lot of the time, most of the time, I get caught up with like, oh, that note was sharp or that note was flat, or no, we have to do it again because it wasn't this or that. And he's like, stop, this is rock and roll. This is not about sounding pretty. It's not about sounding perfect. This is not pop. Sing the damn song and sing it like you're angry at somebody. And so he really kind of helped me step out of that like perfectionist mindset and sounding pretty and really singing the song to just, you know, like just do the damn song, you know? And so it was really, really fun working with him and learning new things and new styles.
So you didn't go home at night after recording and pick apart everything you did. You just let it go?
Yeah. And because I really liked it. I liked the rawness, and it's really refreshing to step away from the overproduced. That's the other thing I love about Johnny is he doesn't overproduce stuff. Like it's so raw, and there's such an element of that old school sound, rock and roll, that I just love about Johnny. You know, how he mixes the drums and how he just, I just love it. I love it. So I learned to live with it, and I learned to love it because it was a nice, refreshing break from a lot of the stuff that's on the radio today.
No doubt. So
even in rock.
What's that?
I was just saying, even in rock, a lot of the stuff has become way overproduced, you know, like, that's just my opinion. I know everything's like super subjective. It really is just a matter of opinion. But for me, it was very refreshing to hear something that's just straight up rock and roll. No, you know.
It's gritty. And I'll agree with that because I will get files in for the for singles on air, and it's like so compressed down. There's no,
Yeah.
it's just like, well, what is this?
Right, right.
So, as obviously you're talking about other songs, that means we're gonna, I think, maybe get an album. Do we have a release date? Do we have any details about that, or can you not say anything right now?
Um, we don't have a release date, and there aren't much details, but we should be in pre-production pretty soon,
Okay.
and you could definitely expect an album within the year, like 100%. So,
Okay.
and I'm really excited because I've never put out a full-length album before. I've only put out, you know, like a 6-song EP when I was like 13. So, and then everything after that was just singles, which are fun, but it's a whole different experience to put out an album. So I'm incredibly excited for that.
And we mentioned earlier about the, like the writing sessions, you're going back and forth, and you have to just send files and stuff. But sitting down and just trying to think the process of writing a whole album, how much different was that for you, knowing that you had to write 10, 12, 13 songs?
It's a little scary at first because you're like, oh my gosh, what if I can't do this for the deadline? And what if like, but once I really started to calm down, in my head and talk myself through it and be more rational about it, I'm so excited. I honestly am, and it's way better when you are part of a band that you love working with them because you can all work together and it's not just Moriah Formica writing this song and you know what I mean. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I was really nervous at first and I was scared, but I'm extremely excited and the creativity just keeps flowing.
Well, that's good. Hopefully, that means a quick turnaround, if you will, to a future album.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm sure you're hoping to get out and on the road at some point. Things are still fluctuating at this point in terms of shows. What was the last show that you performed? Do you remember what it was?
I think the last show, I think it might have been NAMM 2020 actually.
Oh, wow.
Or no, yeah, 2020 I think. Yeah, it was 2020 because I remember right after that, I swear I had coronavirus. I swear I did because I came back and it was like February, and my dad does not get like he'll get like a cold or whatever, but my dad does not get sick, you know. Um, and he was just down and out. Like he was like, I feel like I'm gonna die. I'm like, don't say that. Like, what the hell? This is not, they talk about the NAM virus and whatever, but I was like, this is something different. So it was definitely 2020. Uh, I think that's the last show I remember playing. We might have played like a couple other smaller ones after that. Oh no, I think our last show that we played before was a show in Long Island. I think. Yeah. It was NAM and then it was Long Island. And then that was the last show I played out.
Right. Well, like I said, you're probably itching to do it. You'll do it on April 25th with a nice show that you and the band will be doing. The first public performance. Is it just going to be mostly originals? Because then at that point, it will be the first time everyone hears those songs.
Yeah, we wanted to like keep it short and sweet. So it's gonna be it's a few songs. It's gonna be mostly originals.
Okay.
And like one cover. So but yeah.
Okay. You're 20 now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So at 20 years old, you've experienced a lot in your life, more than most 20-year-olds, I would say, have done at this point. For you, what would you say would be the coolest experience as a musician up to this point for you?
Oh, that's a hard one. Hmm. I don't know. I think the coolest. Okay, well, I have to say the coolest one, like playing opening for Joan Jett, and then the second date, the lineup was me, Hailstorm, and then Joan Jett. That was the coolest. That was one of the coolest experiences, seriously. But I have to say, more recently, the coolest experience up until now as a musician is seeing your song, in the Billboard mainstream rock top 40 charts. Like that, it just feels so good, you know. So I'd have to say, for me right now, that's the coolest experience for sure.
As Tim, when you and the whole team was putting together the campaign to get out to radio, were there nerves about how it was going to be, received and perceived, if you will, and if radio was going to play it? And now, as you see, hitting the top 40.
Yeah, I was nervous. I was definitely nervous because everybody wants people to like their work and stuff like that. And plus, it's like your feelings are just out there. Like it was not, you know what I mean? Like my that there was no holding back with that song. So I just, you want people to like it and you want people to take you seriously and whatever. But I did have faith in it, despite how nervous I was. I had a lot of faith in the song because I believed, I guess that's important. You have to believe in what you do. But I really do believe in what we did and all of us. So I was nervous at first, but then like the first day it hit radio, I was really, really happy with the response.
And it continues to climb the chart as we speak. Obviously, that's the lead single. Do you have a personal favorite from the album at this point? I know they're all your like children, as artists would say, so picking a favorite might be difficult.
I do have a favorite. I do have a favorite, but it's not one that I can say, but I do have a favorite so far.
All right. So when the album finally drops and we catch up, I'll ask that question again.
Totally.
Going back to favorites and moments and things like that, is there a person that you have met in your career so far that has been for you a personal moment and monument, if you will, a big one that you're like starstruck, if you will?
Definitely Lizzie Hale. Like I don't want to use the term starstruck because it's weird. Like ever since I was little, like I never was the type of person to be like starstruck.
Mm-hmm.
But it meant a lot if that makes sense. Like it was very, because you're meeting your hero. It was because when I was 11, there wasn't really anybody that I in my generation that I saw doing what I was doing on a way small scale, playing in my kid band, playing guitar and singing. And so when it was like I saw her live, I went to a Hailstorm show with one of my friends before they really, really got huge. They were playing Northern Lights. You know where that is? Northern Lights?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they were playing that place.
A lot of shows there.
Yeah, or I guess now it's called Upstate Concert Hall, whatever. It'll always be Northern Lights to me. But they were playing that place, and that's where I saw my first Hailstorm show, and I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is so badass and so incredible, and so I just couldn't believe it. And so it was amazing, and so to meet her years later it was very, very, it was a very, very cool moment, and it was definitely one that will stick out in my mind forever. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And we'll start to wrap up here, but as somebody who is starting to see their career, really flourish, what would be your advice to somebody who, at that age when you saw Hailstorm, somebody who's at that age pursuing a career playing music, what would be your advice to them?
I guess a lot of the things I would say sound kind of cliche, but it really is true. Like, one of the biggest ones for me is to really just follow your gut. And I didn't start to really realize that until I was like 18, which is, I know that's normal. You grow up and you see things from a different perspective, but really nothing good has ever come from me not following my gut. Only if you have that really strong, you'll know if it's a gut feeling, nothing good has ever come from me not following my gut. if you feel really strongly that something is wrong, it probably is with anything, you know. And so that's really important to me in my career. And the other thing is just be humble and take constructive criticism, because it really, really does help. I know it's hard to hear, especially when you're younger. It's hard to hear, you know, yeah, that was pitchy, or yeah, you know, your stage presence is a little, it could be better, or you know, your shows, like whatever it is, or your songwriting, like it's hard to hear that, but really, it's you really never stop learning, and you should take it into account, because once all your emotions go down and you really think and you watch back with an open mind, you're like, you know what, that person is right, that person really is right, and I do need to work on this. You know, the second that you think that you don't have anything else to learn is the second that your career and your art is stagnant, because that's not, you're never ever going to grow or learn things new when you have a big head, you know. And luckily I have my parents to thank, because they raised me to be very humble. But um yeah, just be humble, because really you're not going to get anywhere if you're not. You just won't. And also people will want to work with you, you know, if
Yeah.
you're a jerk. um yeah, I guess another thing I would say is have endurance, and um be able to push through things, because there are going to be so many days where you don't even want to get out of bed. Like literally you don't want to get out of bed. It's hard to do the basic things in life, like take care of yourself, you know, if you struggle with certain things, and but you just have to push through it. um so yeah, I think those are the number one things that I would say, because those are the number one things that have helped me. Oh, here's another thing. Sorry, there's just
No,
so
no,
many
go
things.
ahead.
Here's another thing is make smart decisions with who you surround yourself with. And that doesn't even just go for music or whatever. And Pete, my little cat in the background. Well,
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say hi, Pete.
not no, not little. He's not very little, but yeah, that's my cat Prince. That's my baby.
Prince. Okay.
But yeah, so you know, that goes with anything, not just music, not just careers. That goes with anybody in life. You know, even if you're working like a 9 to 5 job, whatever, you surround yourself with people that you feel safe with and that have your back. Um, because especially in the music industry, um, it is really disheartening and painful how many people would turn their back on you for a different opportunity. You really need to trust people. So keep your circle small, you know. And if you have a lot of friends, that's fine too. But just pick and choose the ones that you choose to, you know, have your back and stuff. So that's the advice that I would give.
And I think that's all solid advice, just in life in general, not even business
Right.
or career. I think that's just great, solid
Right.
advice. So thank you so much for the time. Plush is the band. Plushrocks.net is the site. April 25th is the show that's coming up. And thank you so much. And make sure you guys check out the song Hate. It is out now.
Thank you.